And a collection of classic episodes of The Vicar of Dibley are available in 2 volumes on BBC Audio Cassette.
For the best beast yet. 30,000 years ago, an encounter with the woolly rhino was very hairy indeed. Early man tried hard to keep ahead of the game. And the 250-mile journey south every winter was a mammoth undertaking. From a time the world forgot, Walking with Beasts continues Thursday at 8:30 on BBC1.
John Travolta stars in tonight's big film. The thriller Broken Arrow is in 20 minutes. First on BBC1, the news and sport with Matthew Amraliwala and Mary Rhodes.
America says it may have intercepted radio messages from Osama bin Laden. They pinpoint caves in his mountain complex and intensify the bombing. Back home, the British plane spotters accused of spying returned from Greece. And not even on the team bus, David Beckham is missing again from the United side. Good evening. There's been heavy fighting all day in the mountains of eastern Afghanistan. US Special Forces and anti-Taliban soldiers have been advancing on the last positions held by al-Qaeda fighters. And tonight, reports from America say that US forces have positively identified Osama bin Laden's voice, giving orders over short-range radio in the Tora Bora region. Hundreds of al-Qaeda fighters are still holding out in caves high in the mountains, from where Hilary Anderson now reports.
From a great height, US planes homed in. Straight to their target. Osama bin Laden's fighters have been pushed back beyond this ridge. They're outgunned and they're losing ground now quickly. Here, a car can just be made out. US Special Forces are keeping out of sight, but they're deep in the fight and they've taken prisoners. These are the Afghan troops fighting with the Americans. They're optimistic now that several hundred al-Qaeda fighters will surrender. We're still negotiating with them, this commander told us. They may surrender tonight. It's in their interests. But we overheard a radio conversation as news came in from the hills. Around 50 al-Qaeda fighters had escaped over the mountains to Pakistan. There are fears here now that al-Qaeda's talk of surrender could be an attempt to stall the bombing and buy time. Osama bin Laden's fighters face another night under intense bombardment. Many of them have been forced out of their bases and will spend the night here in freezing mountain conditions. Still, they're fighting on, desperate to avoid or delay surrender. As dusk descended in this remote corner of Afghanistan, America drove home its message. This will go on until al-Qaeda's leaders are found or killed. Hilary Anderson, BBC News, on the front line in Tora Bora.
Well, a short while ago I asked Hilary Anderson what more she could tell us about American claims that bin Laden is in the Tora Bora region.
Out of Washington, US officials unnamed are saying that their men on the ground, the US Special Forces, have detected Osama bin Laden's voice. They have matched a voice that they've heard on radios being used by the al-Qaeda fighters in these mountains with the voice of Osama bin Laden on videotapes that they're holding, and they think they have a match.
Is this the last gasp now for al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, do you think?
Well, that's what it looks like from where we're standing. They're clearly up against the far stronger force with these American planes overhead, constantly bombarding what is a very tiny area of land, just a few kilometers square. The al-Qaeda is on the run. They've been losing ground over the last 2 days, and now it looks as if the major standoff is in one cave, which local Afghan commanders believe Osama bin Laden is inside. There were about 200 fighters trying to fend off the Americans, the Special Forces, and the Afghan fighters, but it seems like it's only a matter of days before this all comes to an end.
Hilary Anderson, thanks very much. The 12 British plane spotters held for spying in Greece are tonight back home with their families. Most of the group arrived at Luton Airport this morning, saying they were elated to be back.
Home at last, and to an emotional reunion with their friends and families. After a month behind bars accused of being spies, the plane spotters were just relieved to be back. None more so than grandmother Leslie Coppin.
Conditions were reasonably good considering, but it's not where one would like to be.
Her husband Paul organised the fateful trip. His mum was there to meet him.
But he says he's still going to carry on plane spotting.
No, we'll talk about that later.
Back home in Middlesex, Peter Norris is now looking forward to Christmas with his family. There's a lot of catching up to do. The grandchildren have grown. Peter's kept a diary of his ordeal, pages of frustration at the way the whole case has been handled.
Somebody actually had the gumption to ask us some questions, sit down and talk to us. You know, I'm convinced the whole thing could have been sorted out. You know, it's taken a toll on everybody. You know, just been locked away day after day, week after week, and
like criminals. Yes.
Like criminals, really. For anything in any other European country, would just be dismissed as a non-event.
It isn't over yet. He and the rest of the group will have to return to Greece next year to face trial on lesser charges, but they're determined to fight to clear their names. Emma Simpson, BBC News.
The News of the World has renewed its controversial campaign of naming and shaming known paedophiles. It follows the conviction this week of Roy Whiting for the murder of Sarah Payne. Nick Hyam is in the paper's newsroom in Wapping. He joins me now. Nick, what is in tomorrow's paper?
Well, Matthew, they've got details of 7 convicted paedophiles under the headline named shamed, 4 of them on the front page, 3 inside. 6 of these men apparently are on the sex offenders register but have gone missing. The police don't know where they are, and the paper says that it's publishing their details with the police's approval in the hopes that they can be traced. It's part of the paper's ongoing campaign for what it calls Sarah's Law, which among other things would give parents the right to know if a convicted paedophile lives in their area. But you'll remember, of course, when the paper published the names of paedophiles last year, there was quite a lot of vigilante action, some cases of mistaken identity, several nights of disturbances in the Paulsgrave estate in Portsmouth.
Briefly, exactly on that point, isn't there a danger, even with the cooperation of the police here, there could be a repeat of that vigilante action of last summer?
Well, there clearly is that danger, but the Home Office tonight said they were happy. They thought there was really nothing very different from Crime Watch in publishing this. And the paper's editor, Rebecca Wade, told me this evening she's out to protect children, not paedophiles, and she thinks this will help protect children.
Nick Hyam, thanks very much. Israeli troops have again clashed with Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. At least 4 people are reported to have been killed in the Palestinian town of Bet Hanun. The clashes began after Israeli troops and tanks entered Gaza in both the north and the south of the territory. European Union leaders have ended their summit in Belgium. They've issued a declaration saying they want to make the organisation more efficient and relevant to its citizens. Tony Blair said the document showed that Britain's warnings against a federal superstate were being heeded.
Tony Blair's looking quite at home at these Euro summits. He wanted his fellow leaders to come down against a European superstate, and they did. With packs of Euro coins on the table, some of them wanted him to come out for the currency.
Tony. Thank you, Tony.
But he's not playing that game yet, content to be on the winning side against a federal Europe.
I'm increasingly confident that those who believe, as we do, that of course Europe should cooperate more closely together, that's in the interests of our citizens, but it should do so on the basis of nations coming together, not on the basis of some federal superstate. I believe increasingly that argument is moving in our favour.
By the time the declaration reached the media, Britain claimed victory. The hosts, Belgium, say the debates just started. And anyway, Britain wasn't the only country which felt the declaration should be worded more neutrally. Naturally enough, the hosts weren't quite conceding defeat.
It's not only the British Prime Minister who expressed his concern that the question shouldn't be too pointing into one direction or another, that they should be more open. So saying that this is a big victory for Britain seems to me slightly overrated.
The demonstrators outside, anti-war and anti-capitalist, may never be won over, especially after Mr. Blair and others took out a warning to America not to widen the conflict beyond Afghanistan without consultation. All the leaders are hoping this declaration leads to a new share-out of powers and makes the Union work effectively when new members join in coming years. They're also trying to prove that the Union's relevant to its people, That won't be easy. A recent poll in Britain suggested a quarter of people aren't even aware the UK's a member. John Pienaar, BBC News, Brussels.
The parents of 2 young IRA bomb victims today came face to face with former IRA commander Martin McGuinness. 12-year-old Tim Parry and 3-year-old Jonathan Ball died when 2 bombs ripped through Warrington town centre 8 years ago.
An extraordinary meeting. The former IRA commander Martin McGuinness, now Northern Ireland's education minister, in the same room as the parents of the 2 young victims of the IRA's bombings in the Cheshire town of Warrington 8 years ago. Sinn Féin's chief negotiator called it part of the painful process of reconciliation.
The killing of Jonathan and Tim was wrong, that it shouldn't have happened, and that there is a responsibility on all of us to be involved in a process which brings the deaths of, whether it be Irish children or children who live here in England, to an end.
3-year-old Jonathan Ball and 12-year-old Tim Parry were killed in 1993 when one of 2 IRA bombs exploded in Warrington. Tim's father said today his son had been an unnecessary victim.
Violence can never be an answer. You cannot compel somebody to your point of view down the barrel of a gun or by using a bomb. I think we already knew that, but it's good to hear that Martin McGuinness also believes that.
Then a handshake to seal what the families called a constructive dialogue. Daniel Bircher, BBC News.
Rescue teams have winched 5 crew members off a burning cargo ship to safety. The ship was carrying fertiliser from Dundee to the Channel Islands when it caught fire off the northeast coast of England. The Leaning Tower of Pisa has been reopened to visitors after 12 years of restoration. The famous winding stairway to the top was closed because of fears it might collapse. But experts have now managed to take some of the tilt out of the tower.
Still leaning, but now just a little bit straighter. Pisa's famous tower has been restored to its former glory. Bells rang out across the city to celebrate as the tower opened its doors to visitors for the first time in almost 12 years. Millions have been spent digging out the building's foundations, reducing the tilt by 16 inches. It doesn't sound much, but it's enough to stop the tower toppling over.
The danger was that the tower was falling down simply. At the end of the 90s, it was probably on the verge of falling.
We joined the first group of tourists to enter the tower since it was declared unsafe in 1990. A 293-step climb to the top. Once there, visitors are greeted by a beautiful but lopsided view of Pisa.
It's a great day, a very great day.
But not everyone's happy. The restorations left souvenir sellers with a delicate problem. Their plastic models, based on the original tilt, are no longer quite accurate. For the moment, anyway. The experts are keeping their fingers crossed. If they've got their sums right, the tower should carry on leaning at a safe angle for at least the next 250 years. 2 million tourists are expected to come here over the next few months, but there's no need to rush. There should now be plenty of time to take one of the most well-known pictures in the world. Jonathan Charles, BBC News, Pisa.
Now with news of another day off for David Beckham and the rest of today's sport, here's Mary Rhodes. Mary.
Thanks very much, Matthew. Yes, there's increasing speculation about David Beckham's future with Manchester United after he was left out of the side that beat Middlesbrough 1-0 today. It's the 4th time in a row that Beckham's been missing from the starting lineup. The club say he has a back injury.
It's one thing seeing David Beckham on the bench, but this was something else. At Middlesbrough this afternoon, he wasn't even on Manchester United's team bus. United say Beckham is injured. Football's Grapevine insists he's been dropped by Sir Alex Ferguson after refusing to sign a new contract. Today, United fans were backing the manager.
I don't know what's the matter with Beckham, but if Alex says he's not playing for whatever reason, that's good enough for me.
I think it's all pressure on negotiating the new contracts. That's all it is.
He'll be back, no problem. He's United through and through, Beckham, so there's no problem about that, I don't think.
Beckham's trouble is that he's played brilliantly for England recently, but not quite so well for United. Maybe that's why the BBC's Sports Personality of the Year winner was so keen to pacify his manager.
People have said a lot about the Manchester United team over the last couple of months and the Manchester United manager, but when you talk about ambition, there's only one man, and he's sat over there, that we all look up to.
He may be a contender for World Player of the Year, but Beckham doesn't seem content. Tonight, the odds on him leaving United were cut in half. Adam Parsons, BBC News.
Well, while United won away for the first time in 9 weeks in the FA Barclaycard Premiership, Newcastle move up to third in the table after the visit of Blackburn to St James's Park. Bobby Robson's side came from behind to win 2-1. David Dunn opened the scoring for the visitors. Olivia Bernhardt equalised in the second half before Gary Speed sealed Newcastle's win. Tottenham emphatically ended Fulham's 8-match unbeaten run with a 4-0 victory at White Hart Lane. Veteran striker Les Ferdinand entered the record books by scoring the 10,000th goal in history of the Premiership. Darren Anderton was also among the goals as Tottenham moved up 2 places to 6th. Bolton's inability to win at home continued with a goalless draw against Charlton. Joe Max Moore gave Everton 3 valuable points against Derby, while Mariam Pahar scored the winner in Southampton's 2-0 home win against Sunderland. And West Ham's Frederic Canute scored in his first appearance for 5 weeks. Ashley Cole levelled for Arsenal. And that result keeps Arsenal in second place. Top of the table Liverpool play tomorrow, as do Leeds. Manchester United now just 6 points off the leaders. And of the bottom 6 clubs, Southampton were the only winners today. Ipswich and Leicester both play tomorrow. In Scotland, Alex McLeish's first match in charge of Rangers ended in disappointment as they were held to a 2-2 draw at Motherwell. Rangers looked to have secured all 3 points after Ronald de Boer put them 2-1 up with less than half an hour to go. But they conceded a late penalty. David Kelly earned the home side a draw. And there'll be highlights of Celtic against Dundee and Dunfermline versus Hibs on Sports Scene after the news. So if you don't want to know those scores, look away now. England's cricketers drew the second test with India in Ahmedabad after the home side batted their way to safety on the final day. England only managed to take 3 of the 10 wickets required. Spinner Richard Dawson claimed the prize wicket of Sachin Tendulkar. Nasser Hussain's side need to win the final test in Bangalore to tie the series. In rugby union, London Irish beat Bath by 20 points to 12 to reach the quarter-finals of the Powergen Cup. The Exiles took the lead 20 minutes before the end of the match. Good approach play released the scrum half Justin Bishop, who sprinted clear of the game-breaking try. Irish will now play either Bristol or Gloucester for a place in the semi-finals. And that's all the sport for now. Matthew.
Mary, thanks very much. The main news tonight, America says it may have identified Osama bin Laden's voice on recent radio messages from Afghanistan's Tora Bora Mountains. Well, that's the latest. There'll be news throughout the night over on BBC News 24. But from all of us here, good night.
Speaking about the court case against the Leeds footballers, the victims of the attack talk exclusively to BBC1 in Football on Trial, a panorama special, tomorrow night at 11:10.
Hello again. The UK's weather is going to remain settled for the forecastable future. Probably the most noticeable change will be the cold easterly wind becoming an even colder northerly wind by the middle of next week. Now you can see that happening here on the wind arrows. Here comes the northerly. The arrows getting bigger and bigger as the winds get stronger and stronger, and then the dark blue arrows indicating some Arctic air arriving by Wednesday. Now the reason it's settled at the moment is that we've got high pressure close by. It's sitting over Shetland. But as you can see here, very gradually it's going to slip across Scotland and then down across Ireland, and then those northerlies will set in, and this weather front here could even bring us some snow, but we'll keep you updated on that. A little bit of snow overnight tonight, not amounting to very much, just a few sleety showers for southern England. Elsewhere, a little bit of drizzle and also some patchy frost and fog to contend with. So it's going to be a cold grey start to Sunday. We'll keep a few of those sleety showers going across southern England, but elsewhere skies are likely to brighten up, and just here and there by the afternoon a little bit of that weak watery winter sunshine will be breaking through, with temperatures very similar to today's. Now looking a wee bit further ahead into Monday and Tuesday, you can see from our city forecast that the further east you are, the cloudier it's going to be, and also the chance of some drizzle, whereas further west it'll be drier with some sunshine, and then on Wednesday those cold northerly arrives. That's the forecast.
For the first time, we know why some athletes are simply born to run. We can see why these black parents gave birth to white children. We can even tell why some of us can drink more alcohol than others. The explanation lies in every cell of our bodies.
It's called the human genome.
Robert Winston's Threads of Life, tomorrow at 9 on BBC1.
Now on BBC One, tonight's lottery results. In the National Lottery draw, the winning numbers are confirmed as 5, 7, 13, 24, 35 and 40, and the bonus number is 16. Early indications show that there are 3 lucky jackpot winners, each winning just over £2 million. The winning numbers in the Lottery Extra are 30, 32, 36, 37, 40 and 49. There are no winners tonight, which means the jackpot for the next draw has grown to an estimated £5.1 million. The National Lottery Thunderball numbers are confirmed as 2, 9, 28, 29 and 31, and the Thunderball itself is number 14.
Things to avoid at the Christmas party.
Lesson number 1.
Embarrassing yourself on the dance floor.
Dora is a very spirited dancer. Lesson number 2.
Inappropriate behavior.
What are you doing? So what is lesson number 3?
Getting drunk.
Lesson number 4.
Going wild. You might do something you regret.
Would you mind, just putting that down to a momentary lapse of concentration?
Stay home. Watch the best films instead.
Wow! Love and a bit with a dog. That's what they want.
BBC One. Home for Christmas.
Cool and calculating now on BBC One. With strong language, John Travolta packs a punch as a renegade Air Force pilot in the tough thriller Broken Arrow.